I'm so excited as we take our health back. Feels like we're off to a great start with all my fabulous guests. I'm Wendy Loh, and I will be your host as we journey to take your health back. We are coming to you live from my home in Makiki and from the studios of ThinkTech Hawaii in downtown Honolulu. ThinkTech Hawaii showcases diverse topics with over 40 plus hosts. We welcome you to join us daily as Jay Fidel and Carol Munn Lee, our bosses, make sure that we have high quality content to share with you. I've invited a dear friend back on my show to share with you something so valuable, and yet we take it for granted. We know it as breath, breathing, and the diaphragm, a fascial perspective. Learn to breathe properly and start living better. Oh, is it that simple, guys? Just learning to breathe better? I tell you, I know it is, but we're going to learn more about it. Now, who doesn't want this better quality of life? We would like to ask you a question. Are you doing all the important things for your physical and mental health during this time of uncertainty? One thing for certain, the Fascianator Method of Rolling will empower you to boost your immune system, improve your mobility, reduce your age and activity-related aches and pains without the need for medications or invasive procedures. Have we got your attention yet? Anthony and Eileen have Zoom classes 6 days a week, and they have students as far away as Maine to the east and Taiwan to the west. Today, we add one more facet to your health journey: the science behind proper breathing using the diaphragm. Anthony has brought a dear friend, Bryan Mirabella, to share his knowledge about breathing techniques. How can we master our breath? Mastering your breath means really knowing what your body is telling you and how to effectively address it with a successful and proven methodology. They say repetition is the mother of all learning. So that is why Anthony and team try to help every single person who attends their live Zoom classes with the proper guidance daily. Wow, that means we get guidance every day from this guy if we need it, and he's there for us and he wants us to take it. They have students who have regularly attended his classes, his Zoom down classes, since March, nearly a year ago. Wow, Anthony, that's loyalty, but that's people desiring better health through you. And that's so excited. So let's get started and let's welcome Anthony Chrisco and Bryan Mirabella. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello, Wendy.
Aloha, guys. And aloha, Bryan, all the way from New York. Excited. And Anthony, all the way from Mililani. All right. Aloha, guys. Ha means breath in Hawaiian, and we know that. Today, we'll be discussing the importance of your fascia with regards to breathing. Anthony, I understand that we will be discussing the fascia and breath and how they are intertwined in good health. Tell us about that.
Well, your diaphragm is the muscle that goes from underneath the rib cage and all the way around your torso. But more importantly, it's shaped like an upside down dome. It's a bowl, if you will. And we call it a muscle, but in reality, it's all related to the fascial structures within the torso. Now, some of these numbers aren't exactly accurate because different people have different ideas about the diaphragm, but some people say that it's 80% fascia, 20% muscle. And my friend Dr. Bruno Bordoni, he has published papers in PubMed talking about how it's all fascia because it has extensions along the spinal column into the brain. It separates the hemispheres of your brain. And then that fascial continuum of the diaphragm goes down into the abdominal space, all the way down into the pelvic floor. And what that means is when you are properly engaging the diaphragm, you're also pulling the tissues from the pelvic floor up. You're helping separate and move and pump the tissues around the brain. So you're squeezing toxic waste out of the brain. You're squeezing toxic waste out from the pelvic floor. And this diaphragm, right, it does not act like a plunger. It behaves based on the different inputs, right? So it's not just one action. It has multiple actions on multiple planes of movement. And in some cases, this diaphragm can even prepare your movement before you even move. It kind of knows what you're going to do before you do it. Like you ever get bad news and you get that gut feeling, that pit in your stomach, guess what that is? That's
Right.
the fascial diaphragm. And it is also linked exclusively to our interoreceptors, which is about our mood, our well being. So, people that I've worked with who had serious chronic diseases and 8 to 9 intestinal surgeries, when I worked on them and I was done, I finished my process on them, they're like, Anthony, you just changed my life. Because of my multiple surgeries and chronic disease, my brain always puts my pain to my gut. But because of what you did, I couldn't I couldn't access that pain anymore. You completely changed my life. And just so you know, this is a woman who, at the end of it, when her insurance wouldn't pay for medication anymore, she hired a guy to inject her with heroin in her veins.
Oh,
Okay. She
wow.
ended up quitting her job, which was another source of stress. She started teaching, became yoga certified, and she started helping people the way I helped her. So that's just one example of why and how important this diaphragm can be if we learn how to utilize it properly.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. So, I mean, I've heard about diaphragms. I mean, we always studied it, but, we haven't heard about a diaphragm in a long time. So I'm very excited that you're bringing it back to light and just really wanted to know, and how is it related to our fascia? I mean, that was what I wanted to ask you as well. That's
Yeah.
so important.
It's
So,
connected to all, think of it as the center of our universe. So that is our being.
mhm.
It is our center. And that, well, there's a slide in here. I kind of get ahead of things, but when you see
Yeah.
one of the slides, you'll understand more.
The diaphragm slide. I know. I was like, what is that? Like,
Yeah.
wow.
So when you look at this basic image here, it says the diaphragm separates the heart and lungs from the abdominal organs. And like I mentioned, it is much more than that. It has fascial connections to your brain, the organs, and the pelvic floor. Okay, so if I have irritable bowel syndrome, maybe I need to work on my breathing. If I have chronic migraines, I'm pretty sure proper breathing can help with that as well.
Wow.
It reaches, it's far reaching and is all encompassing.
Wow. From looking at that image, I see the diaphragm and what looks like where the heart should be, right? But where
Yeah.
did this image come from, and what are we really looking at when we look at this?
Well, let's take a look at the next slide because that's the basics. Wow, what are
Yeah.
we looking at here? Well, this is an image that we got from the Fascia Research Society in the Fascial Neck Plastination Project, of which I'm one of the team members. I was on the dissection team, and I had gone to Germany 2 times in 2018 and 2020 as one of the contributing members of this team. And what you're looking at in that image, not only is the diaphragm what separates the heart, if you can go back to that image, that bag that you see, guess what? That's the pericardial sac that your heart sits in. And your heart sac is 100% connected to your diaphragm. That's what that image is displaying.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. I had to look at it again and again, and wow, that's an amazing slide. Thanks for sharing that with us.
It's
So,
incredible because it really shows, like, again, if you have heartache, depression, despair, look how connected your heart is to the diaphragm. I mean, there is no separation.
wow, wow. So, Anthony, I saw that you are hosting a special workshop for breath work with
Yes.
your special guest, Bryan Mirabella from New York City. So amazing that we can combine our collective energies from 6,000 miles away. And I'm just so excited. And that's why when I saw you sent us all, there were probably a few hundred on your email list that noticed that he's going to be doing the talk. I got excited and I thought we better put you on before it's after the fact. And people are going to tell us, why didn't you tell us before, not after? So first, tell us about these workshops. And then Bryan, can you introduce yourself and to our local ohana here in Hawaii?
Okay, so let's go look at that slide. And at home, if you're looking at this, snapshot this or write it down. We're going to have 2 workshops. They're the same workshop, and they're both, we have one on Monday, March 1st at 4 p.m. Hawaii time. And on Saturday, March 6th at 10:30 Hawaii time, it's $25 a person. And this virtual workshop is 60 minutes long. And again, my guest speaker is Bryan Mirabella. I'll let him tell you about his extremely qualified background and why I chose him. And the image you see of Bryan right there, he's in Peru at like what? How many thousands of feet are you?
About 10,000.
And guess what? He didn't get any altitude sickness because he knows the regimen to prevent it. So Bryan, can you tell everyone at home, why did I choose you to lead the breathing workshops?
I think you chose me. Hi, Anthony. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you to all the listeners. I think you chose me because you've been following my journey and you know me for a long time. And I've been this fascial fitness expert who teaches people how to move. And then I morphed into breathing, and I've been able to change my life through learning how to breathe through my diaphragm, which has been able to envelop and open up my heart space to the world. And that's coming across, I think, to everybody else. They see my transformation and the fact that I'm now spreading knowledge that isn't so focused on necessarily being an athlete or having to move very hard. Because the breath work that I teach, you can actually gain a lot of cardiovascular endurance and strength by sitting still. And it's pretty transformational. And I've been teaching it now for about 3 years. I'm an Oxygen Advantage instructor. And, you know, I have to go there and say it, but we're the gold standard of breathing because we have our roots in the Buteyko Method, which was begun by Professor Konstantin Buteyko in the 1950s in Russia. And it's all based off a physiological law originated in 1904. And that law is called the Bohr law. But it's forgotten. It's swept under the rug when it comes to respiration. Everything they teach about respiration, and I would say almost everything, is not correct. And if we base it off this law, then we know that proper respiration begins with the nose and ends with the diaphragm, and there's nothing more important to a human being than proper respiration. And your diaphragm, I don't know, Anthony, I might say that in a few years, the diaphragm is going to be called an organ because it never stops moving and it's pretty much keeping you alive. And that sounds like an organ to me.
It sure does. It sure does. Sounds like it's been the best kept secret, I should say. They need more, it needs more attention, and you're going to give it to it, I know. So Bryan, can you tell us what are the benefits of diaphragmatic breathing?
Well, the diaphragm is the principal measure by which to evaluate your body's state of health and self-realization. If you're not using your diaphragm to breathe, your upper chest breathing, you're probably breathing through your mouth, and you're creating constriction around your heart. Now, as you inhale, the diaphragm moves down, right? And as you exhale, the diaphragm moves up, and when on the exhale, it hugs your heart. It actually creates a spiral around the heart. So when we exhale nice and slowly, so the diaphragm moves back up and it cradles my heart, and we call that a heart hug. And at that, as you exhale slowly, your body is synthesizing a natural chemical called acetylcholine, and acetylcholine's job is to slow the heart rate down. So as the diaphragm hugs the heart gets smaller and blood gets pumped in, not faster, but slower because everything opens. And that's the parasympathetic breath, which is the God breath. And on the inhale, the reverse happens. The diaphragm moves down, the heart grows bigger, the body has to pump in blood faster, and that's the sympathetic response. So it's all about the spiral of life, which is right here, and it's driven from the diaphragm.
Wow. Thanks for that explanation, because I was just closing my eyes and envisioning the whole function of the diaphragm. And boy, it's the heart's buddy. Like you said, I love its purpose. It wraps itself around the heart, and they just work together with every beat. That is amazing, and people don't know that, I'm sure. Yeah. So Bryan, I'm also sure that everyone thinks that they know how to breathe. Just open your mouth and you take in the air in and out. But can you enlighten us with more scientific approaches to effective breathing? For optimal health, it really is not about how much. Is that right? It's about how you do it.
That's exactly right. Because how much would mean that when people say take a deep breath, everybody goes and they fill their lungs because they think the lungs breathe for you. But in actuality, they just filter air. They're capturing the oxygen, but your diaphragm is breathing for you. So if you're breathing in fast and shallow, you're not using your diaphragm. So the idea is a specific cadence that we like to use, and it's to breathe in for 4 seconds, but not about taking a lot of air in. As you breathe in for 4 seconds, you would breathe in as slowly as you can. And as you breathe in slowly, your paranasal cavities are producing nitric oxide. And in 1998, they won the Nobel Prize for the molecule nitric oxide. And nitric oxide's job is a signaling molecule. So it signals all the endothelial tissue, which is the linings of your veins, your artery, and your lymph, and your fascia, as Dr. Robert Schleif told me. It signals all of these tissues in your body to let go. And when you let go, you improve flow. And all your body's really ever doing is sensing pressure and vibration. So the less pressure, the less constriction I have around my heart, the more that my baroreceptors send feelings of calmness to my brain. If they're sensing massive amounts of pressure, over breathing, hyperventilation, breathing through my chest, they're sending feelings of agitation to my brain. And Stanford came out with a very big study in 2017, and they told us that there's a specific part of the brain now that they call the locus coeruleus, which is spying on your breathing. So if you learn to breathe diaphragmatically, not upper chest, and you slow down your breath, then the signals that are sent to the brain are feelings of calmness. And the brain only knows 3 things. I love you, I'm safe, and I'm calm. And if you breathe through your diaphragm, you're going to get those good signals.
Wow. And I'm one to encourage people to sit back, be still, and take those deep breaths. And I didn't even know the science behind what I was saying. All I know is I heard it once before. And then these are the people that I will get to your class, because then they'll understand it's not just Wendy telling us to breathe slow and slow it down, but there's a scientific reason that would make your body happier and healthier. And I always tell them to take deep breaths and expand, right? And then I tell them to pucker their lips and breathe it out slowly. So it's not like, it's like, and breathe it out slowly. And now you're going to show me the absolute right way to do it so that I can pass that word on after, and to encourage people, just tell them that how wrongly we're doing it so that they can get corrected by what you're going to be showing us. Right, Bryan? We're going to buddy up on this.
Exactly.
All righty. So there's on the next slide that we have, it says, I know that we are looking at the lungs, but what happens inside the lungs? This is another crazy thing I'm sure you're going to share with us. How does oxygen get from the lungs into our bloodstream, and can healthier breathing help us prevent infections?
Absolutely. Well, again, the lungs only filter the air. So if we say take a deep breath, we fill the lungs. But the word deep means far from the top. What's far from the top? My diaphragm, right? So if I breathe through my nose, Wendy, never my mouth was not designed to breathe. So breathing should only ever be done through the nose. So as I breathe in slowly, again, nitric oxide's pooling in my paranasal cavity. Now here's the beauty. Nitric oxide's job is to humidify, warm the air. It's antibacterial, antimicrobial, antifungal, and antiviral. And one of the professors that won the Nobel Prize for it is on social media all the time saying that coronavirus is preventable because of nitric oxide. So if we can teach people to breathe in slowly, utilizing the diaphragm, you pick up this gas, nitric oxide, and nitric oxide takes the blood from the lower lobes of the lungs, because we're anterior creatures, so it pools. And its job is to flush blood to the upper lobes of the lungs. Now, the upper part is where the most amount of alveoli are, the little tiny sacs that capture the oxygen. So now I have blood flooding the whole entire lung. And that's actually how I capture more oxygen from the atmosphere, not by taking in a larger volume, but by slowing down the volume.
Wow.
And then nitric oxide's job, it signals the molecule surfactant, which is what COVID depresses. So surfactant's job is to keep the lungs elastic, so they can have proper gas exchange. But COVID is it attacks the molecule surfactant, and then the lungs can't be elastic. So then the alveoli start to fill up with fluid, edema, right? So if we learn to breathe slowly through the nose, activating the diaphragm, we pick up gas called nitric oxide, and then everything can be prevented. Proper breathing is the end all be all. Nose, diaphragm, and then I have a healthy life. It's literally your quantum inner universe, your breath is, to the outer realms, which are actually inside of you. And your whole life changes when you learn to breathe well. And it happens fairly quickly. People have, in my class, they have great experiences within 2 weeks. The class is 4 weeks, but after 2 weeks, they were already sending me tremendous thank you emails.
Wow, what a gift, right? I mean, and then to receive back, you give to them and then they give you a mahalo back. That's so important. And that's why I'm sure you're never going to stop doing what you're doing.
Right.
And I truly will be on your class because I need to learn more of the proper techniques for all of this. And right now, I'm just going to ask you, could you give us a quick sample of the different types of breathing techniques? And I know there's many, but how many other techniques have you learned and taught?
Well, in Oxygen Advantage and Breathing with Bryan, which is the class that I teach, we're gonna work on 3 things. And there's 3 dimensions of breathing. One is biochemical. So how can I regulate my blood chemistry through my breath? And that's by cadence breathing. So it's by breathing in slowly for 4 seconds, allowing the diaphragm to expand into my kidney area, right? So it can stimulate my kidneys to remove waste. And then it's by exhaling slowly for 6 seconds. And as I said, the diaphragm moves back up and it cradles the heart. It encompasses it. It gives it a little hug so the blood can get in and dilate the veins and arteries. And then the second dimension is biomechanical. So in yoga, they talk about breathing all the time, but they don't talk about the biochemistry. They only talk about the biomechanical aspects of it. And the original tenets of yoga were actually to sit still. The first 4 limbs of yoga is sitting still. And if I were to put my finger by my nose, I shouldn't even feel my breath. I should be breathing so gentle like a baby that I can't even feel the air coming out of my nose. So that would be the biomechanical aspect of it, of breathing diaphragmatically, but not just through the front of my body, through the front and back of my body, up and down. As Anthony said, that diaphragm is like an upside down bell. So the bell has 6 dimensions really to breathe in. So I want to biomechanically breathe diaphragmatically, and I want to fill up the entire diaphragm, but not with a lot of air in my lungs, just slowly. And believe it or not, the slower you breathe, the stronger your diaphragm becomes. Not faster and not more air in, slower. And then the third dimension would be psychosomatic. So if I'm stuck in my upper chest, I'm fight or flight breathing, because that's a hyperventilation breath. So the faster I breathe, the more agitation, the more pressure I feel, the more agitation my brain senses. If I slow down my breathing, the less pressure I feel around my aorta and my carotid artery, and then the feelings of calmness come to my brain. So that's what we would be learning. So the techniques would be slowing down your breathing to a specific cadence, practicing same side nasal breathing, and then we do breath retention exercises. So we actually hold our breath. And holding your breath has been, your ancestors have been doing it for millennia, especially in Hawaii. They had to dive for their food all the time. And your body actually knows what to do when it's holding your breath. It learns how to keep you alive. And there are tremendous benefits from doing breath retention exercises, where you can literally regenerate tissue. You can stimulate new red blood cells in your own bone marrow just from holding your breath. And I get a lot of people who have a lot of debilitating issues, and we get them better just learning how to breathe properly.
Wow. Thank you so much, Bryan. In the short few paragraphs and minutes, I've learned a lot. So as I said, I definitely will encourage more of our buddies that we love and care about to tune into your classes. So now I know that you have both been teaching, many classes. So I'm so excited. At the end of the show, we're going to give the people opportunity to find out where they can get information. But so Anthony, I know that you've been teaching virtual Fascianator classes since March of last year. And I know that's hard for you because I know you love to touch and joke and be around live bodies, but thank you for just being innovative and getting us excited about being on Zoom with you. So amazing. It's amazing that you have been helping people around the country. And that's the good part now. You can reach farther than just your, the halls and the rooms that you've rented, so that you reach around the country and the world stay healthy despite of our different current challenges of the day. Can you share with us some of your latest testimonies about your Fascianator classes while we show your Zoom schedule?
Sure. Well, I'm now up to about 10 different ladies who used to have positive mammograms, which required a biopsy to see if they had cancer in their breast. Well, now we're up to 10 ladies now. We're 2 years into them where they have negative mammograms. No need for a follow-up appointment because there was no dense lump found there. That's the first thing. The second thing, I have about 5 different women who, number one, they're changing the strength of their eyeglass prescription to a lower strength because their eyesight is improving. How? Because we're stimulating the fascia right within the eyeball. But more importantly, it's not just anecdotal evidence now. I have 3 different doctors' results where we've lowered the intraocular eye pressure upwards of 25%, which those are the ladies that are dealing with glaucoma, which, as you know, it's the biggest cause of blindness in the world. And most people don't know they have it until it's too late. So same with the oxygen. We're getting oxygen and blood and flow to these very important structures. Not only are they getting better results at their visual acuity tests and their field of view tests, but they're lowering their eyeglass prescription. In some cases, they're getting rid of the eyeglass altogether.
Wow, that's amazing. So I know the time is running out very quickly, so I'm going to have to say thank you for both of you, for all your knowledge and passion in helping people improve the quality of their lives. So real quickly, how can our viewers change their lives with you? Give us your websites and your information.
Bryan, you go first.
Okay, thank you. Well, my website is called quantumfitness.org because I'm taking it into the new generation, the age of Aquarius, and oxygen is energy. And I run monthly breathing courses, and they're listed on my website under Breathing with Bryan. The next course is actually beginning March 8th. So that's pretty much it for that.
Thank you, Bryan. And Anthony.
All right. Well, our website is www.thefascianator.com. Remember, don't misspell it. It's Fascia. And like our little slide on the bottom says, you guys, if you want to level up your fitness and well-being levels, talk to me and Bryan. We will change your life, guaranteed.
All right. I'll be posting this on Facebook and all the other medias so that people can get in tune with your classes. But we have to run for now, guys. I told you there was so much to talk about. So mahalo, Bryan from New York. And mahalo once again, Anthony, my dear Savior friend. I love you both. Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha.